Is it ICP, the internet computer's time to shine? Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is what we're going to be asking and hopefully answering in this video. And many of you that watch me regularly will know that ICP is indeed a holding of mine. It's one that we've not made a video on in a little while, but technically we've never really been worried about. And what do I mean by technically? I mean by what the charts are telling me in regards to what I think is to come for ICP. I'm very grounded in my conviction that the entire space has a positive time ahead of it. Certainly 2025 is going to be a very positive year. Now, a project with such fundamental merit as ICP, I do not believe is going to miss out on that. And today we're going to be taking a technical look, a charting look at ICP, where it's at cyclically. You guys will know that we like to break the market down into 4 phases. ICP has just moved out of what is a sideways phase, a phase 1, a sideways trend, or accumulation as Wyckoff would call it, into phase 2. And it's done that in a very traditional fashion. Typically, you'll break what previously held as resistance, you'll flip it into support, you'll bounce off it, and then the real uptrend will begin. And that's where ICP is today, ladies and gentlemen. So not only are we going to look at it from a kind of macro weekly time frame, we're also going to be diving down and we're going to be taking a look at it from a shorter time frame. It's been in a kind of descending channel that sort of took you back into resistance that it has now broken out of. And we're going to be showing you that it does very much like ICP has a great time ahead of it. So this is absolutely a video not to miss. Just to set a little bit of premise for this video, how we look at the markets, and this is what I teach, is through the lens of phase analysis. And that essentially dictates that markets move very similarly in a cyclical fashion that sees or has 4 phases to it. Phase 1 is a basing phase, phase 2 is an uptrend, phase 3 is a topping phase, and phase 4 is a downtrend. Wyckoff also looked at the markets through a similar lens. He ultimately used his Wyckoff accumulation and distribution schematics, which everybody likes to show, but nobody really talks about the fact that these are a part of a cycle that markets undergo. Why do markets undergo these cycles? Well, it's because human beings drive them, and often human beings make the same mistakes over and over again. So that's how we look at markets, or the lens we look at markets through. Let's talk about where ICP is in relation to all that. And straight off the bat, you'll be able to see it, certainly with the schematic on the board. You can see that ICP very clearly is in phase 2. And when entering phase 2, what you often get is a breakout into it on volume, which we saw for ICP here. And then you'll get a pullback, often on declining volume, before volume picks up again. In fact, we told you volume was coming back and that actually ICP was likely going to look for support at a previous resistance and bounce off of it. And that is happening today, ladies and gentlemen. And the more important thing is, from a macro context, this is now a market that's in phase 2, which is an uptrending phase. Markup, Wyckoff would have called it. You know, it's an uptrend, it's a bull market. And ultimately, ICP is going to do well as a result of this. Its price, in my opinion, is going higher. Now, that's not something you can take to the bank, just my own technical assessment based on some of the things that we're talking to you guys about today. Now, let's look at a few examples. So the S&P was one that we called here on the channel. Those of you that have been following me since 2023 will know just how right we've got the traditional markets. Certainly Bitcoin, because it's more correlated with the S&P and other things. Altcoin's been a little bit stagnant, a little bit sticky in regards to they've taken longer to accumulate. But ultimately, given enough time, we will prove them to be right on those also. So if you look at the S&P 500, again, we were looking at this going into 2023 saying, this is likely accumulation. We're looking for the breakout. We got that. Not only did we get the breakout of this resistance, it then flipped into support before a broader uptrend ensued. That is what is ahead of ICP today, ladies and gentlemen. We're really trying to imprint this into your mind. If you want to take all this a step forward, you want to sort of connect with me in a more intimate manner, do consider becoming a patron. It is, in my opinion, well and truly worth it. First thing to do is go and watch Wednesday's meeting. We are back to normal now. But you can see really what it is we're highlighting here. Breakout, pullback, continuation. You don't always have to pull back, but it's very common that you do this, not just in regards to phase analysis. Typically when you break a pattern, whether it's a descending grind line, whether it's a neckline, whatever it may be, significant level of resistance or significant level period, you'll often retest it before continuation. Certainly something as significant as this, which has really kept you in phase 1. So you can see S&P 500, breakout, retest, continuation. We've got HubSpot. This is a more recent one that we were calling. You've got phase 1 base here. There was also a technical pattern giving you further confluence in the direction that you're heading. Breakout, retest, continuation. Bitcoin is, of course, a great example. You can see this was Bitcoin's phase one base, and we used this method to predict Bitcoin back when it was sort of at 16K-ish, certainly as it moved up towards 20. We knew there was a good chance of phase one coming to an end and phase two ensuing. You got the breakout and volume, and then you got a double retest before you saw that continuation. Again, relate this all to where ICP is today. It's had its breakout, it's had its retest, continuation is on the cards, ladies and gentlemen. You've got the likes of American Superconductor Corporation, double bottom range, phase one, breakout, retest, and then continuation. And then, of course, you've got the likes of Allincrypto Technologies. And I can actually show you hundreds. We're showing you a lot of recent examples that we've looked at more so behind closed doors. But these are, as you can see by the sector name, stage twos, phase twos, that ultimately now are in an uptrending phase. And this is essentially where ICP is today, ladies and gentlemen. And that means, you guessed it, we've got an uptrend ahead of us. So very excited. This is a fundamentally very impressive project, very true to the ethos of Web3. Big fan of Dominic Williams. We think fundamentally this project has every reason to do well. Technically, on a macro time frame, it also does. So what I want to talk to you guys about now is the shorter time frames. Are we seeing anything on there that gives us excitement? Well, certainly with today's move, you're very much breaking out of, and we'll drop down to the smaller time frames, resistance, or I should say a sort of almost flag-like pattern that's often exaggerated when it comes to the crypto space. You know, they do follow traditional technical analysis, but often with a bit of a twist. You know, you can see this is the sort of structure. This is your sort of capping trend line, downtrending line on the shorter time frames that ultimately it looks very likely that you've broken out of today. You know, it's almost like a wedge-like fashion, in fact. You know, very common with wedges. They consist of three impulses. Ultimately, those impulses restrict, and then you break out of them. We called lots of falling wedges for lots of different cryptocurrencies out there. And this could be, I guess, looked at perhaps through the lens of a falling wedge, some sort of a, because it has those three impulses, some sort of a bull flag that ultimately is going to take you and see you march at least to this high, and then actually continuation, which is very much going to be in line with the broader phase and direction we think the markets are going in. And we've explained why it is we think that. This is a very kind of unique method of looking at the markets. And one of the reasons it's so unique is because it's simple. Often when it comes to technical analysis, people try and overcomplicate it. When it comes to the markets, they try and sell you a silver bullet. Silver bullets do not exist in the game of technical analysis, ladies and gentlemen. But what you can do is come up with a method, a formula that has a proven track record of increasing your probabilities of being right on what the markets are about to do next. And when it comes to the markets, that's about as good as anything. So we're very sort of steadfast in our conviction that ICP, in my opinion, is going to see higher prices this year. Remember, it's not a check, the cryptocurrency space. You can always interact or come into contact with things that weren't quite expected. But from a technical point of view, we've very much broken out of our phase one base. We are now, in my opinion, evidently in phase two. Not only did we confirm that on the breakout, we've confirmed that on the retest. And I do believe there are very much brighter days ahead of us for ICP. And certainly on the smaller time frames, you can see a lot of merit. You know, this is ultimately how markets move, ladies and gentlemen. The S&P is a great example. In fact, let's do this. Let's put the S&P underneath, which we don't currently have on, but we will find it. You know, you can really see what it is we're looking at. S&P, really good example of a kind of phase one breakout. And you can see ICP, phase two, uptrend. You know, get ready for it. We're at a great point in regards to the sort of crypto cycle. We've got Bitcoin dominance that we believe is now going to likely roll to the 40% region. That's ultimately going to see altcoins do very well under that kind of cover of, if Bitcoin dominance is going down, actually that means Bitcoin's going up, just altcoins are going up faster. And we're still yet to see this kind of phase of the cycle, this alt season, if you will, a real alt season. And there's no way, in my opinion, that ICP isn't going to be a part of that. Technically, it looks sound. Fundamentally, you've just got to look into ICP to be rather impressed. And actually, when you look at the different approach that they're taking to the crypto space, it's very impressive. Again, big fan of Dominic Williams, big fan of ICP, Infinity, you know, the whole kind of selection. We haven't made content in a little while. It's not been moving in line with some of the others that we have in our portfolio. So HBAR, you guys know I hold XRP. There's a lot of others out there that have really been the top performers. But ICP will have its day. Ultimately, on the big time frame, technically it looks very sound. Fundamentally, it's a very sound project. I think ICP is going to do very well in the year of 2025. So let me know your thoughts, comments, and concerns in the comment section. And on that note, I'm going to love and leave you. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you all soon.